why every chosen one must endure the dark phase of spiritual awakening. When you begin your spiritual journey, no one really warns you about the darkness. They talk about the light, the bliss, the enlightenment, the miracles. They sell you the idea of peace, of freedom from suffering, of connecting with the divine. And those things are real, but they are not the beginning. They are the consequence of something much more difficult, much more sacred, and far more terrifying. That something is what I call the dark phase of spiritual awakening. And if you are truly chosen, if you are truly called to awaken your highest self and live your divine mission, then this phase is not optional. It is designed. It is initiated by the universe itself, and it often feels like death. You see, most people think awakening is about gaining something. Gaining wisdom, gaining power, gaining clarity. But that's not how it begins. Real awakening starts with loss. You lose your identity. You lose your comfort. You lose your sense of who you are and what the world is. Everything that was once familiar starts to break down. Your relationships shift. Your desires collapse. Your sense of time distorts. Your emotions become unpredictable. You're no longer sure what's real. And that's when the fear creeps in. The panic. The existential dread. Because you're not just shedding beliefs, you're shedding everything. And there's no guarantee of what comes next.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
This is what I call the hidden descent. It's the part of the journey where the universe silently pulls you inward, deeper and deeper, until you're forced to face everything within you that you've been avoiding for lifetimes. The pain, the rage, the shame, the guilt, the jealousy, the fear, it all surfaces. Not because you did something wrong, but because these are the exact energies blocking your divine power. Until you face them, you cannot hold your true light. You cannot fulfill your true purpose. You cannot carry the frequency of a chosen one. And so the universe strips you down, not to punish you, but to purify you. And here's the paradox. The more powerful your soul is, the deeper the darkness you must walk through. Chosen ones are not given easy awakenings. We are given total dismantling. Because our mission is not just to feel good. Our mission is to shift the collective, to break generational cycles, to dismantle spiritual illusions, to be the embodiment of truth in a world built on lies. And to do that, we must first confront every lie we've ever believed about ourselves, every false identity, every inherited wound, every unconscious pattern. We must face the void and sit in it long enough to remember who we really are. During this phase, it often feels like no one understands you. Friends fall away. You can't relate to others the way you used to. You feel isolated, disconnected, even abandoned. But this is an illusion. You are not being abandoned, you are being set apart. You are being called inward so you can hear a voice that is not of this world. The voice of your soul. The voice of the divine. And that voice often speaks in silence, in pain, in stillness. It doesn't scream. It doesn't beg. It waits. It watches. It invites you to remember. But here's the truth no one tells you. You will resist this phase. You will try to bypass it. You'll try to fix it, escape it, suppress it. You'll look for healers, psychics, rituals, anything to get out of the pain. And all of that is understandable. But the real transformation begins when you stop running. When you stop asking how to escape and start asking what the pain is trying to teach you. What is the lesson hidden inside the grief? What is the message inside the silence? What is the gift inside the darkness? Because make no mistake, you are not broken. You are being rewired. Your nervous system is being recalibrated. Your intuition is being activated. Your energy field is being expanded. And none of that can happen while you're clinging to your old self. So the old self must die. and that death feels like chaos, but it is divine chaos, sacred destruction, necessary unraveling. The seed must crack open before it becomes a tree. So must you. And this is where the test really begins. Not the test of how spiritual you can appear, but the test of how real you can be. Can you sit with your fear without numbing it? Can you cry without shame? Can you feel lost without rushing to find meaning? Can you let life break you open, knowing that what's being destroyed is not your essence but your limitation? This is the crucible of the chosen. And if you're in it right now, I want you to know you are not alone. You are not failing. You are awakening, not in the way the books describe, not in the way the influencers portray, but in the way that actually matters, in the way that changes your DNA, in the way that realigns your soul, in the way that prepares you to become a living embodiment of truth. So I ask you now, from the deepest place within me, can you trust the darkness, even when it feels like it's swallowing you? Can you trust that this phase, the one you hate, the one you fear, is actually your initiation? Can you believe that the pain is not proof of your failure, but evidence of your calling? Because this is just the beginning. The sacred breakdown, how your pain becomes your portal to divine blueprint. There is a moment in every chosen one's journey where the pain becomes unbearable. Not just emotional pain, but spiritual fragmentation, the kind of inner collapse that makes you question your existence itself. You wake up and feel like your soul is missing. You don't recognize your thoughts. You feel like you're floating in a strange limbo between worlds. Your desires fall apart. Your goals become meaningless. And even the things that used to comfort you, food, music, relationships, even prayer, suddenly feel hollow. This is not depression. This is not a glitch. This is the sacred breakdown. And although it feels like you are dying, what's really happening is far more profound. You're peeling away the false layers of your programmed self so that your original blueprint can finally be revealed. This blueprint isn't something you make up. It's not a fantasy or a dream. It's encoded in your soul. It's ancient. It's divine. It's the reason you incarnated on this planet. But until you pass through the fire of your breakdown, you can't see it clearly. Why? Because the ego has built a fortress around your truth. It's layered with coping mechanisms, inherited beliefs, cultural narratives, fear-based stories, and those have served a purpose. They kept you safe in a world that doesn't recognize divine beings walking around in human suits. But at a certain point, those layers become a prison, and the only way out is through the pain. What most people don't understand is that pain is a portal. It's not the enemy, it's the invitation. It's the divine knocking at the door of your comfort zone, asking, "Are you ready to remember?" Because within the agony of your unraveling is the raw material for your becoming. Every breakdown contains the coordinates of your blueprint. But those coordinates are encrypted. They can only be decoded through presence, through surrender, through feeling it all. Not analyzing, not fixing, not bypassing, but feeling. When you finally stop fighting the pain, something mystical happens. You begin to hear whispers beneath the suffering. Insights drop in. You start to notice patterns, repeating emotions, recurring shadows, buried memories. And if you stay with it long enough, you'll realize that your pain has shape. It has language. It has intelligence. It's not random. It's your soul trying to speak to you through the only medium you'll still listen to: discomfort. And once you realize this, something unlocks. You begin to read your pain like a sacred text. You begin to see the blueprint hidden inside your breakdown. Let me give you a truth most avoid. Your purpose is hidden inside your deepest wound. Not around it, not above it, right inside it. That's why you've had to suffer the way you have. That's why your path has been so intense. Because your soul came here to transmute what others run from, to alchemize your shadows into medicine. And that alchemy begins when you stop asking, Why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is this awakening in me? What if your heartbreak taught you how to love from a deeper place? What if your betrayal showed you how to trust your own voice? What if your depression was not a malfunction, but a soul call to stop living a life that doesn't match your frequency? What if your anxiety was your body's way of rejecting the fake roles you've been forced to play? You see, the sacred breakdown is not the end. It's the threshold. It's the stage where the old self dissolves to make space for the true self to emerge. But here's the key. You must let go of the timeline. You don't get to rush this. You don't get to skip steps. The breakdown has its own sacred rhythm. Your job isn't to control it. Your job is to trust it, to let it do what it came to do, reveal you. And when it does, you'll start to feel something you haven't felt in a long time: clarity. Not the mental kind, not answers, not certainty, but a deep gut knowing that you are exactly where you need to be. That all of this pain isn't a detour, it's the path. The divine doesn't waste your suffering. It codes it. It weaves it into your purpose. And when you stop resisting, you begin to receive the downloads. You begin to remember the mission. You begin to reassemble yourself not as who you were, but as who you really are. So let me ask you something you may not have considered. What if your breakdown is not the end of you, but the birthing of your blueprint? What if the pain you're running from is the exact gate you must walk through to access your highest power? Because what waits on the other side of this descent is not just healing, it's activation. The initiation of fire, how chosen ones are tempered through spiritual chaos. There's a point in every chosen one's awakening where pain turns into fire. Not the kind that simply burns, but the kind that refines. It doesn't just destroy, it purifies. It doesn't just hurt, it activates. This is what I call the initiation of fire. And it's not a metaphor. It's a living, breathing experience that consumes everything false and leaves behind only what is real. If you've made it through the sacred breakdown, then the universe now begins to temper you to turn your raw essence into something unshakable. But here's the truth. Fire doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't wait for your comfort. It simply does what it came to do: forge the divine into form. At this stage, the chaos doesn't end, it intensifies. But it changes form. It becomes sacred. Your life starts to feel like a forge. Everything you touch either melts or sharpens. Old habits start to burn away. Old relationships feel unbearable. You can't tolerate lies anymore, not from others, not from society, and especially not from yourself. Your nervous system becomes hypersensitive. Your intuition becomes louder, more demanding. You begin to see through illusions in real time. And it can be overwhelming because you now realize just how much of the world is built on illusion. This is where many chosen ones break again, not from pain this time, but from the weight of truth. Because once you see, you can't unsee. Once you know, you can't unknow. And now the question becomes, what will you do with this knowing? Will you hide it to fit back into the old world? Or will you allow the fire of truth to transform you, even if it means walking away from everything that once made you feel safe? You see, this phase isn't about comfort. It's about capacity. The universe isn't trying to make your life easier, it's trying to make you stronger. Not in the way the world defines strength, but in the way your soul defines it. Strength of alignment, strength of integrity, strength of presence, strength of sovereignty. The fire initiates you into the kind of power that doesn't need to dominate, manipulate, or prove. It simply is. And that kind of power must be earned through chaos. The people around you might not understand what's happening to you. They might say you've changed, that you're intense, that you're too much, that you've gone too far. But what they're really saying is that your fire is threatening the structure of their illusions. Your transformation is triggering their stagnation. Your evolution is exposing their refusal to grow, and that's part of the initiation. Can you hold your fire without needing to explain it? Can you let others misunderstand you without shrinking your light to make them feel safe? Can you walk through the world as a living flame, burning only what no longer serves and illuminating everything else? This is also the phase where your gifts start to awaken: spiritual, emotional, energetic. You begin to feel timelines. You begin to sense people's true intentions. You start dreaming in symbols. You feel called to speak certain truths that shake the room. You start remembering things you were never taught. These are not random. These are your tools, your sacred technology. The fire doesn't just purify you, it activates your original coding. But these gifts are not toys. They are not for ego. They are for mission. And that's what the fire is preparing you for. You see, the chosen ones are not here to escape this world. We are here to recode it, to bring in a new frequency, to embody a new way of being. And that requires more than knowledge. It requires embodiment. Not just knowing the truth, but becoming it. And to become truth, you must first let the fire burn away everything that is not aligned with it. Your fears, your doubts, your attachments, your performative spirituality, your need to be liked. All of it must go, not because it's bad, but because it's too small for who you are becoming. And here's where the fire becomes sacred: when you stop resisting it. When you stop fighting the chaos and start partnering with it. When you trust that every disruption, every loss, every breakdown is actually a precise recalibration of your path. The universe is not random, it is surgical, especially with the chosen ones. Every trigger is an activation. Every delay is a recalibration. Every collapse is a portal. The fire is not here to punish you. It's here to forge you into the version of yourself that can actually hold the magnitude of your mission. So now I ask you, not your mind, but your soul, are you willing to let the fire do its work? Are you willing to become the version of yourself that your destiny requires, even if it means losing everything that no longer resonates with your truth? Can you walk through this spiritual chaos not as a victim, but as an initiate? Because when the fire is complete, you don't come out the same. You don't return to your old life. You don't even want to. You emerge as something new, something clear, something undeniable. You don't just talk about light, you carry it. You don't just study truth, you embody it. You become a living transmission of what it means to be real in a world full of illusion. And that, my friend, is when your true work begins. The return of the architect, how the awakened chosen one rebuilds reality with their frequency. Once you've passed through the fire, there's no going back. Not because you're stubborn, not because of pride, but because your being has changed. The frequency you now carry won't allow you to return to smallness, to illusion, to pretending. You've become something else entirely, an architect of reality. And this is where the journey takes on a whole new dimension. Because now, it's not about healing. It's not about seeking. It's about building. It's about transmitting. It's about embodying the frequency of truth so fully that the world around you begins to reorganize itself in response. This is the return not to who you were, but to who you always were underneath. There's a quietness in this stage, a groundedness. You no longer chase validation. You no longer argue with people who don't understand. There's no need. You've seen the code behind the illusion. You know that energy speaks louder than words. That presence is power. That your frequency is your message. And so you begin to move differently. You speak less, but when you do, people feel it in their bones. You take action not from impulse, but from alignment. You walk into rooms and atmospheres shift not because you're trying, but because you exist in a different bandwidth now. And the most beautiful part, you begin to create not from ego, but from essence. You create art, movements, communities, technologies, timelines. You begin to rebuild the world around you, not by force, but by resonance. You attract others who have passed through their own fires. You recognize each other instantly. No need for long explanations. Just a look, a nod, a frequency match. These are your fellow architects, your soul family. Together, you don't just talk about the new earth, you build it. But this role comes with responsibility. Not the heavy kind that weighs you down, but the sacred kind that anchors you in integrity. Because you now understand something few do, that everything you think, feel, say, and do is not just for you. It echoes, it ripples, it codes reality. And so you become more intentional, not paranoid, not perfect, but aware. You understand that your presence is a tool, a bridge, a transmission, and you use it wisely. You also begin to see that the darkness you endured wasn't a detour, it was the map. Every wound you healed, every shadow you integrated, every truth you embodied, those are now your tools, your offerings, your wisdom. You're no longer ashamed of your scars. You wear them like armor, like medicine, like proof that you survived what was meant to destroy you and came out more you than ever. You realize that your pain wasn't just for you, it was so you could reach others in their pain. So you could guide them through their own fires with compassion, with clarity, with presence. And this is what separates you now. You don't need people to believe you. You just need to be you. You don't need to convince anyone. Your life becomes the evidence. Your peace becomes the proof. Your alignment becomes the invitation. You're not here to save anyone. You're here to remind them. Through how you live. Through how you love. Through how you hold your frequency, no matter what the world throws at you. So I ask you this as we close this journey, are you ready to build? Not from fear, not from ego, but from the deepest essence of your soul. Are you ready to live in such integrity with your truth that the world around you has no choice but to shift in response? Can you now honor the chaos, the breakdown, the fire not as obstacles, but as the exact ingredients that shaped you into the architect you were always meant to become? Because this is where the chosen ones rise, not with noise, not with ego, but with frequency. Quiet, undeniable, unshakable frequency. The kind that doesn't just speak change, but is change. The kind that doesn't beg for a new world, but builds it. And that is why every chosen one must endure the dark phase of spiritual awakening.